Hi, so we're going on to task 2 of your managed risk assignment. So task 2 is all about identifying risks. And in question 1 of task 1, it came up that we should come up with a focus group, improve the risk management program, develop continuous improvement programs, and generate ideas to identify risks. So this is basically what task 2 is all about. So firstly, question 1 is you, Esther Smith, is writing an email to the senior managers of the CACD department store asking for them to be involved in like a risk management committee. So here we go. I've been asked to implement a risk management process for the department store. As you may be aware, we are using a generic risk management process that was designed for the whole CACD retail group. Recent audit has highlighted the risk issues which relate to the department store and will require further investigation and management. Therefore, being deemed necessary that specific procedures be developed and implemented as soon as possible. So that's just giving, I guess, an overview of why you're emailing them. The second is to butter them up so that they become part of the committee. So your experience and knowledge is highly appreciated, and I wish to invite you to participate in this project. It is anticipated that an investment of 1 hour per week will be sufficient to ensure that we develop an effective risk management plan. So 1 hour per week out of their schedules isn't a huge amount of time. Please let me know by close of business next Monday if you would like to be involved in the CACD department store's risk management process. And then say thank you in advance for your support, because you're assuming that they'll want to come, make themselves look good and involved, etc. So if you can write a similar sort of email, that would be wonderful. Oh, that was the question. Question 2, you are to put together an agenda for the first session. So we're assuming that everyone has said, yes, we'll come along. So you can put together an agenda like I have in this table. That's how I find it easiest anyway. So the meeting is called by you, Esther Smithers, the attendees that you sent the email to. The purpose of this meeting is to generate a list of risks that face the CACD and brainstorm ideas on how to reduce them. Time, date, location, so you can put in whatever date that you wish, but I've just said Monday 25th of July, 9 till 10 a.m. and the location, and then I've said what we're going to do. So yours can be a sort of something along these lines. So you'd obviously welcome the attendees, take attendance to make sure everyone's come, or if someone's away, you write their name down so you'd email them anything they missed, and you'd talk about the current risk management policy. Then you probably spend some time brainstorming what the current risks are. Then you might break into smaller groups of 2 or 3 to discuss possible solutions to these risks, because brainstorming as groups helps you come up with more ideas. And then lastly, group discussion about the possible solutions that could be elaborated in the following meeting, because we only have an hour, and then the meeting is closed. So if you could write an agenda, something along those lines, that would be great. 2B is about the importance of research and why you should do research to identify risks. So I have some dot points there. So risk management should be ongoing. For each risk, it's important to ask questions. Example, what could happen, why it could happen, when it might happen, where it could happen, how it could happen. The next stage involves analysing the risks and putting a risk management plan in place. And these dot points here show places where you could do the research and get some data from. Ebook section 2.2 is a big help to answer that question too. To see what idea generation tools or techniques could you use and why would you choose them. So ebook section 2.3, I'll just go into it. It shows you some generation tools. So in the agenda I did in the previous question, I actually used brainstorming, but there are a couple of others. 2.3. Yeah. So it goes into them here. So there's brainstorming, which probably is the most common one. You can do a mind map. I'm sure teachers have done those types of things before, and I'm sure you have too. You could talk about those. A fishbone diagram is sort of a more structured mind map. A scenario analysis, or you could do focus groups as well. So you could talk briefly about all of those, or maybe just go into one in more detail for 2C. Alright, question 3. So once you have a list of risks from your idea generation, use the result of similar brainstorming sessions provided in the appendix. Eliminate any that don't apply to your scope. So in the appendix, they've got, I guess, some of the things that they've brainstormed. So importing website people inventory. So we can use this in question 3 to talk about what the risk is, analyze it, and then control the risk. So there's 3 examples at the top for you to use, and I've also put some in red to give you some ideas. So this first one, website out of date. So at the moment, the cause of the website being out of date is that it's slow and has old images, which are inconsistent with the corporate image that CICD wants to put out there. The consequences is sales decrease and use of online store falls, because if the website's crummy, people aren't going to come back. So what's the likelihood of this happening? I would say that it's fairly likely, but to do this you use your risk rating matrix. Something is pretty likely that people won't want to come back, and the impact of this, I would say, is pretty major because that's influencing your cash flow. So likely and major gives it a high risk rating. Okay, so likely, major, high. And then we're putting in here how we can control it. So remember, there's 4 different ways to control a risk. We can either avoid it altogether, we can accept it, we can mitigate, which also means reduce, or we can transfer it to someone else. So there's some examples there that show you those. So definitely explain briefly how you plan to do this. So I plan to avoid this risk by redesigning the website so that it's more modern and it's not as slow, so people will keep coming back. Then we have to say who's responsible. So in this case, because it's the website, it would be John Sales and Mary Webster in marketing and IT. Date to commence. So this is a major risk. So I think that we'd be wanting to start this pretty immediately. Maybe hiring someone to design the website for us, and how long it should take. So I reckon it would take maybe about 1 month to redesign the website. I don't know for sure, but just estimating. And then the status is open because this is going to be ongoing until it's finished in a month. So some other ideas that you could use, and I've got filled in some of the boxes for you to help you. The poor inventory management caused by poor processes. The consequence is we're unable to meet customer demands. Traineeship funding cuts. So the government changes to funding could mean that funding is cut altogether. This would mean lack of funding for trainees. Now, because that's a government thing, we wouldn't be able to do anything about that. So that would be something we just have to accept. Online growth is really strong, but we can't keep up with the orders, and the environmental impact because we're using a lot of plastic. So fill in those, and then what you need to do in the 3rd column where you can see it says risk number here is you've got to rate your risks from 1 to 8 if you want to include the example 3, or 1 to 5 if you just want to do the 5 you've done. I don't mind. So 1 would be like the most extreme risk, and then 8 would be your low risk. So number them up. And that is task 3. Oh, sorry, task 2. All done.